Welcome back to an instant-ish reaction edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie Schneiderite. Richie, we have another transfer out of the program. Last year's starting left tackle, and was only in the program for less than a year. Willie Tyler has announced he's entering the portal. I don't think this should come as any surprise that we're having transfers out after we've gotten an entirely new offensive coaching staff for the most part. Pat Flaherty has come in and probably has done an independent assessment of where Rutgers was at. And I don't think he was necessarily happy with a lot of the offensive line play last year. And Willie Tyler has 1 year of eligibility left. So what are you hearing with this transfer, and what do you think that means for Rutgers, not only in the lead up to spring, but also where the offensive line might sit next year?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, people are going to see starting left tackle leaving, and it's like, okay, sure. Like, no, there's no need to panic. Like, Willie Tyler wasn't that good. No offense to him. Like, he just wasn't a good offensive lineman. He wasn't good at Texas. He went to Louisiana Monroe, was competent, maybe slightly above average down there, but came out to Rutgers, and he just wasn't good in the Big Ten. Like, that's just what it is. He obviously isn't ready for this level of play. I think he's going to go back down a level. I think that's clear as day. Now, would you like to have kept him as depth? I think I'd argue yes, in my opinion. That's up for debate, but end of the day, I mean, you can replace him pretty easily. How you're going to replace him, that's the big question mark. There's so many different ways you could do this. Tyler Needham's a young guy that was stepping up a little bit last year. He was backup right tackle to Holland Pierce. We saw Kamar Missouri come in at times at tackle. Heck, we saw C.J. Hansen play tackle last year too. And all three of those guys are still on the team. We saw some of the young guys are starting to step up a little more. Dante Chin was probably the most ready of all the freshmen last year, of that super talented Fab 5 level freshman class, or whatever you want to call it.
Let's not go that far. Come on.
They were some highly rated kids, but they're all
but Fab 5 is like
I know.
5-star kids. Come on.
We'll stick to hoops for Fab 5.
Exactly.
Comments, but anyway, so maybe Dante Chin steps up. Maybe the best case scenario, I think you move Holland Pierce to left tackle. The dude's been pretty damn good at right tackle. Maybe just try him at left and see what happens. It's end of the day, you should have got a transfer. That's clear as day.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question there. We'll dive into that in a little bit later, but I think those are your options at the moment. I think you either go Pierce, you go Needham, or Missouri. Maybe Hansen's like a fourth guy that could be an up-and-comer, but I shouldn't say up-and-comer because he's in year 4 or year 5 or whatever now. So
yeah,
it's kind of make or break at this point for him. But I don't know. That we knew the offensive line was going to be a work in progress no matter who it was. Like, I know we just said it off the pod, but like, don't expect Flaherty to like come in here and be like, oh my God, these guys are great all of a sudden. Like, you can't make chicken. What was it? Chicken food out of chicken shit? Or
you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. Come on.
Yeah. Come on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, early morning here. But yeah, just looking at our scholarship chart on offense, 11 of our 20 scholarship offensive linemen right now have freshman eligibility. 14 of our 20 offensive linemen on scholarship have freshman or sophomore eligibility. This is still a really young unit. A lot of these guys too, 5 of those guys are true freshmen coming in. This is a group that Flaherty's really going to need to coach up. I don't doubt that somebody who is a redshirt freshman will play extensively this year. It's just going to be a question of who. Because a lot of these guys, they go through so much transformation in 1 year that you might come out in the spring, if they let you come out in the spring, and be like, who's number 74? And they're going to be like, oh, it's this guy. You're like, it's that guy? Holy shit, what has he been doing all offseason? That happens every year.
Yeah.
There's 1 or 2 guys who just totally transforms their body. Just things need to click. Like, so much is going on for these kids in such a short period of time. A lot of these kids, it's their first time away from home. They're adjusting to that. It's the personal responsibility portion of it. It's hell. They might not have had an environment at home where they were eating every night 3 meals. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of change for some of these kids. So I do think we might see a surprise or two from one of the younger guys, but we're going to need to just trust in Coach Platts here, because this is not a situation that's going to be resolved probably in the spring or this season even. But I think there'll be improvements.
Yeah, I mean, we're not getting a depth chart spring. We never do at this point. Very annoying, but besides the point, I mean, I think 3 of your top 5 linemen at the very least in Brown and Dunlap and Pierce. But after that, it's the other 2 spots are a total question mark. And that's right now, that's your entire left side of your line. Like, you have no idea who your left guard and left tackle are. And you could probably argue those 2 spots are probably the most 2 important positions on the line. So a little scary. Obviously, there's some people that have played last year. Like, you could maybe move Dunlap to left guard. Chafani played significant snaps last season. But your best lineman's gone in J.D. Dorenzo. I think without a question, and I've been saying this, I've been very adamant about this on the boards, you need a transfer guy. Like, I don't care what level he is. We can stop. Yeah. Well, probably. You probably need 2, but I don't think they're even going to get 2. Maybe 1, but who knows? I think we said this when Flaherty was hired. He's walking in here. Every job's wide open. So I want to say, as much as I was saying there's 3 of your top 5 linemen, I still think those 3 win jobs, but this is open. It's wide open right now. Like, any guy could just step up and take those 2 jobs easily. So,
yeah, no doubt. This also, it's interesting looking at the scholarship chart and seeing, Brian Felter played as a true freshman. He hasn't really played much since. Gus Zielinskis played as a true freshman. Didn't really play a lot last year. So there's guys who have experience along this offensive line for whatever reason haven't really played a ton outside of their freshman years. So we'll see if Coach Flats can kind of see something in them. A lot of these guys weren't ready to play as freshmen either, so let's just throw that out there as well. But maybe he can pull something out of these guys, because clearly there was something there if they're playing as a true freshman at the Big Ten level, even if it was out of necessity. So. Yeah, he's got his work cut out for him for sure. Yeah,
it's rough, and I keep saying it. And people got to stop saying, like, why would we go get an FCS transfer? Why would we go get like this lower level guy? And I'm like, your best lineman last year was from Sacred Heart. Like, are you kidding me?
I think there's the amount of people talent who say that because you were good at one level, that means you can't be good at this next level is like a total logical fallacy. There's a reason why FCS kids are getting drafted in the NFL, playing long careers in the NFL. There's a reason why these FCS kids are now moving up a level and becoming one of the best players at their position in college football. You have to look no further than Jared Verse at Florida State. You look at Dalton Kincaid at Utah. Both those guys came from the FCS and were putting up good numbers there, and then they came up and were still really good at the next level. I think there's a lot of hate for lower level kids for no reason, especially if they meet the height weight requirements. Like, if they're a 6'1" edge rusher and you're taking him on because he had 16 sacks for let's say Montana State, there's a reason to question that. There's not many 6'1" guys who are going to succeed at the Power 5 level, but if he's 6'5", 270, he's probably going to be pretty good. Yeah, no, there's definitely guys down there, and that's where I think you have to start looking a little more. We've seen so many like big name programs do it too, like. Yep. I know, and I shouldn't even call this a big name program, but Northwestern did it with an Ivy League kid, and he turned out pretty well. He's one of their starting offensive linemen last year. I forget his name. Penn State did it with Hunter Norzad out of Cornell. Like, there's talent down there. Just go pluck one. Like, it's not that Zion
hard.
Johnson at Boston College.
Yeah,
he came from a D2 program and then became a first-team All-American for Boston College. So yeah, there's talent down there, and you just gotta. I think you have to hit the portal hard in that 15-day period or whatever the hell it is. Yep. So. All right. So let's pivot a little bit to basketball. We had some interesting news, not break necessarily, but you reported on some news yesterday. It was first brought up by a resident poster, RU72. Wanted to give him a shout out so there was no confusion as to who posted about this first. But another MSG game looks like it's on the docket for next year. Opponent TBD, but tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, so they're definitely going to play an out-of-conference game at MSG again. I think Rutgers saw the fan base, saw everything. Everyone just show up, and it was just the crazy environment overall. I'll say from my perspective, just hitting the train from my town in South Amboy to New York City, holy shit, every train car was red. Like, I was shocked, or scarlet, whatever you want to say. I was actually legitimately shocked. And I know one of the photographers I brought with me is a Seton Hall guy, and he was
was doing work for us, and he was even like, "Holy shit, man! Like we couldn't." Like he said word for word, we could never even pull this off. Like this was there was a lot of red. Like so, I think without a question, you're doing it again, and next season it's going to be either Gonzaga, Providence, or St. John's. Now, if it's St. John's, I would just assume it's a St. John's home game at that point. That's just a guess on my part, but who knows? If it's Providence, I guess it's just a neutral site game. I don't really know what you consider that. Or maybe Rutgers gets screwed and NCAA is like, no, you get another home game, buddy. Like, and if it's Gonzaga, I think it's probably a 1-for-1. I think you're probably going to see them go out to Spokane, and it might be an interesting trip to say the least, because that's the year. Say Gonzaga comes here next year, the year after, you got to go out west anyway. So maybe you play one of those early Big Ten games and you get like Gonzaga one day on Tuesday and then USC or UCLA on Saturday, something like that. But
yeah, can we talk a little bit about like how the whole who is the home team or if it's a neutral site game gets decided so late? Because if you remember when Penn State played Purdue at the Palestra, that counted as a neutral site game the day of. The following day, they switched it to a Penn State home game, which I don't know how you can make that
very
determination
close, right?
after the game. And Penn State or Rutgers, Michigan State, it wasn't announced until like the day before. Why is there ambiguity about who the home team is / what if it's a neutral site game? Why is that not clear from the get-go?
Well, we saw like the majority of the crowd was Penn State fans, so we're like, yeah, that's a Penn State home. No, now you look at MSG, 75% Rutgers. Yeah, that's a Rutgers home game. Like,
but that wasn't clear. That wasn't clear the day. Like, you know what I mean? It was determined like the day before for Rutgers to be a home game. Is there?
I don't get
what
it.
is the reasoning behind this? Do you not know either?
I have no idea. There's no reasoning at all. The NCAA is a shit show right now, as we all know, and they have bigger things to worry about. They're slapping people on the wrists. They're slapping people on the wrists for women's basketball recruiting.
Oh my God!
When meanwhile, like that's what you're going to get Miami for getting the twin sisters. You're going to get them for that because they ate dinner at the guy's house. You're not going to, I don't know, go about to maybe Florida down the road and be like, hey, I know you just offered this kid 13 mil. What the fuck happened here?
Yeah.
Or like maybe any other kid on the football team and just be like, hey, we know you got money. Like maybe, I don't know, go a little further. But everyone's asking us on the boards, like, what do you think of this? I'm like, it's nothing. It's a whole lot of nothing. That's just the most fucking insane thing I've ever seen. And they don't want to ruffle any feathers because the minute they do, when they ruffle the feathers of either a Big Ten or a big name Big Ten school or a big name SEC school, those two conferences are going to say, hey guys, you want to just secede and say, like, make our own thing? Because we already have like top, 40 teams together. And we already have like 30 of the, like, you could even argue all of them are at the top level. Like that is the NCAA right there. There's no two conferences at this point. So I don't know. Big joke there, but NCAA is a shit show. It's a joke. And that's all I got there.
Yeah. St. John's would be interesting for that site, for that game. Looks like they're going to fire their coach this year, Mike Anderson.
Oh, no. Stop.
So that's one thing to pay attention to. Providence, I think they're just like, Ed, is it Ed Gladney or Ed Pinkney? I think his name is.
Ed Cooley.
Ed Cooley. I don't know why I can never get that right. Ed Cooley, he's got a great program. He's kind of pulled from the doldrums of the Big East. But I think I hope it's Gonzaga too, because Gonzaga, they'll be losing like fifth-year senior Drew Timme.
Exactly.
They won't have a Chet Holmgren level recruit. They have don't get me wrong, they have a great program there, but I think they'll be relatively down, but everybody will still view them as Gonzaga, especially, if Rutgers goes in and wins that game. It'll be a huge December win. I assume it will happen in December, early December. So a huge way to, lead up to the Big Ten conference schedule.
Gonzaga right now, and we're just kind of looking at this right now. They're number 9 in the net. Obviously, they're not going to be number 9 next year unless they win it off. If they win it all, then maybe they might be higher. But I'm going to assume they're probably going to be like top 20 next year, which is going to be great for Rutgers out of conference schedule and resume. Providence is number 38 right now. Who was the other one? St. John's. St. John's is bad, but it sounds like they're going to, like you said, they're going to fire their coach, and I think the leading candidate might be Rick Pitino. So
yeah,
That'd be
I
interesting.
agree. That's probably the leading candidate, but I don't know. Every time Pitino comes up for a job, there's some new stuff that comes out of the closet about that guy. So
yeah, a lot of hookers in his background.
a lot of hookers, a lot of just,
Imagine that guy in the heart of New York City.
I mean, he's been there before. He was the Knicks coach.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. So he already knows the good strip clubs and all.
He's from there. I mean, he's at Iona now, which is on the outskirts of New York City. So
yeah,
he's a New York kid at heart.
Fair enough. It makes sense. I mean, and they would probably be a pretty solid team next year. So either way, you're getting a solid opponent, seems like, and you're not getting the typical Central Connecticut State, although they will more than likely probably be on the schedule as well.
Yeah. I don't see us significantly beefing up the schedule. Maybe they replace Temple. Instead of playing a team like Temple at a neutral site, you play a team like Gonzaga. So it'll buoy up the out of conference a bit. But I don't ever see Pike playing a schedule that is, top 100 even in the out of conference because the Big Ten is a gauntlet. There's really no point in playing really good teams to fill your out of conference.
Yeah, I would like to see. Well, next year they probably get the Gavitt games back because they didn't have it this year, so I'm assuming they go back in it. ACC Big, is that still on one more year, or is that it after this year? I forget.
I honestly don't know.
I know it's getting canceled, but I don't know when.
Yeah, I think because it was an ESPN production, the ACC Big Ten Challenge, because the Big Ten no longer has a package, like a TV package with ESPN. I don't think they could do that anymore.
Okay, so yeah, I just looked it up. That is the final one. All right, that sucks. But so you get the Gavitt games, so you're going to play one of those teams, unless they make the Providence game the Gavitt games, which I guess you could.
Well, Providence is a Big East team.
Yeah.
The Gavitt games.
Isn't it Gavitt games?
Oh, yeah,
you're
right. Yeah. Sorry, my
bad.
bad.
So they would get the Gavitt games maybe, or even if you don't get that. So it's MSG, Gavitt games, Seton Hall. Right then and there, there's the three big teams, and then you fill it out with a bunch of random stuff. So I guess it's probably equal to last year. Unless it's Gonzaga, it's going to be similar to this year's schedule.
Yeah. So. And I know there's probably a good reason for this, but the fact that Rutgers has never been involved with the Dickie V Classic seems to me that it makes no sense.
Jimmy V.
Sorry, I said Dickie V. I meant Jimmy V. My bad. I think why not? Like that seems to be a shoe-in, no-brainer. But I'm sure that there's good reason behind it.
Pre-COVID, I don't know if you remember. I think it was Baylor they were supposed to play.
I do.
And then I don't know what happened, logistical issues and COVID issues, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe they try to get back in it. Maybe that's what they'll make the MSG game and just put those four teams in it.
Yeah,
that would be fun.
Yep.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. They're going to have a very intriguing schedule next year. So I wish they would just do one of these preseason tournaments, though. It drives me nuts. Like, I don't know if you saw, I got an email randomly yesterday.
Like, hey, about the one in San Diego.
Yeah, you want to break this news? I'm like, okay. Like, what teams are in it? Like Iowa, USC, Seton Hall, Oklahoma, and the San Diego Rady Children's Invitational. I was like, okay, why are you sending this to me? Like, I just figured you're a basketball guy. Okay, I'm sure. Sweet. Like, whatever. But, I mean, that's what I want Rutgers to be in. I want them to be in one of those tournaments. Like, I want to watch a whole classic, like a whole actual tournament. Like, you win, you move on. You lose, you play this guy. Like, it's fun. Go to the Bahamas. Let's do that.
I was gonna say, I'm sure you'd hate to go down to the Bahamas to cover that event, or Vegas to cover that event, or wherever else they have because it's always a destination.
Bahamas or Vegas as a write-off? I'm in. Sign me up.
Absolutely.
But that's all we really got in terms of schedule-wise, I think, right?
Yep.
That's it, yeah.
All right, guys, so we have a game tomorrow night at Minnesota. Rutgers should be a favorite in that one. The betting line hasn't come out yet, but obviously there would have been a ton of pressure on Rutgers to win that game if they had lost at Penn State. Thankfully, they didn't. This is still a game that you don't want to mess around this late in the season. Rutgers has to take care of business. You don't want to throw anything out there that they could hold against you. I think Rutgers is safely in, but that's safely if nothing crazy happens. Like if Rutgers goes into Minnesota and loses by 20, I think that totally wipes away the good grace of the Penn State win. So, again, I'm not saying that happens. I think they win pretty handily. I think they win by 10, 15 points, but they need to take care of business. That's the bottom line. So, Rutgers, Minnesota tomorrow. We'll have a reaction on Friday. And then they close out the season with Senior Day Sunday against Northwestern. Then the Big Ten tournaments next week. So we could do a Big Ten tournament preview / Northwestern recap on Monday. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. There might be more breaking news. We're waiting on Kurt Tang's decision. College sports is crazy. New things always happen unexpectedly. So stay tuned to the board. Stay tuned to your podcast feeds. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and also give us a 5-star review on the podcast. We really appreciate it. It's helped a lot of people find this podcast. We've grown a lot in the last year and a half. And so we appreciate you all who have told your friends, told your family. Go Rutgers. This has been another edition of the Knight Report podcast. Signing off.